Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video I'll be demonstrating how do I install Arch on my system. I have an 8-core AMD CPU with a RX 480 video card. Now this is no means the correct way, it's just my opinion. I'm going to be installing it to my secondary SSD, so I'll be referring to it as SDB. But if you're booting from the Arch USB, then you should use SDA. That's because the way I'm recording this through OBS, if you're following along with ArchWiki, you'll notice I skipped many steps also. That's because I can do all those steps at a later time, like time of date, network, mirror list, etc. So let's get started. Here I'm going to do an ls block command, so you can see I do have an empty SSD under SDB. So I'm going to CF disk into it and select GUI partition table because I'm going to be using EFI boot, not MBR. So let's create that first EFI boot partition. Go under New, enter your size. You want 512 megabytes, not gigabytes. Go over to Type, and then go to the top where it says EFI system. There, I've created my first partition. Next, I'm going to create a root partition. New, and I'm going to minus 8 gig from this because I want an 8 gig partition for swap. And for type, should already be set as Linux subsystem, file system. So nothing to change here. And the third partition is going to be the rest of the drive. And then type will be Linux swap. Now go over to the write command. And it'll ask you, are you sure? Type yes. Go over to quit, and you've just created 3 partitions on your empty drive. Let me clear the screen, and then I'll do another ls block command. And you can see my 3 partitions. Now I'm going to format these partitions. First one is going to be a FAT 32 on my device. Enter. Now my second partition, I'm going to use a B-Tree FS, better known as BetterFS or ButterFS. That's because it can tell the difference between a hard drive or an SSD. It's still very experimental though. And the third partition, I will make a swap, because I cannot use a swap file on a B-Tree-S file system. You have to have a swap partition separately. Now turn your swap on. Great. Next is to mount our partitions. Extremely easy, so follow along. First, we're going to mount our root partition. Secondly, we're going to make a new directory under that new mount. Let's call it /mount/boot. Now let's mount our EFI partition. And I'm going to mount that to mount/boot. Next is the actual installation of Arch. We're going to pack strap it to /mount. And we'll let this run through. Shouldn't take too long. Now, pack strap, also known as bootstrapping in other Linux distros, is just the process of installing a bootable Linux image to your specified drive. Depending on your region, this process might take a little longer, and also your connection speed to the internet. I'm here in the US, so this goes pretty quickly. A couple minutes at least. As you can see, this is the latest 5.1 kernel. Now this is installing the base group for Arch. It's very minimal. Next step is to generate your file system tables. It's a very important step because this tells your Linux kernel about your drives. And then outputs that data to a file called fstab under your etc folder. Now we're going to chroot into our newly installed Linux system with arch chroot /mount. Now the reason you have to chroot into your new Linux subsystem is because we have to make it bootable. Some people will choose to install Grub here. I use the systemd boot. The next command I'm going to enter is bootctl space install. This installs systemd boot onto my SSD. Now there's two files that need to be edited. So change directory to /boot and then change directory loader. Do an ls command. Now you'll see your loader.conf file. So let's nano loader.conf. Now go down to where it says default and replace the string of letters and numbers with something simple like Arch. Save and exit. Now change directories one more time to entries. And if I do an ls command, you'll see there are no files. So we have to make this file. So what you want to do is nano arch.conf. First line is going to be title. Let's name it something simple like Arch. Second line, Linux / VM Linus -Linux. Next line, initrd, which stands for initial RAM disk. Init RAM file system -Linux image. And for the last line, options. This is where we're going to tell where my root drive is at. In my case, SDB2. Yours will be SDBA2. Save and exit. Now exit out of root and reboot. Make sure to remove your live USB, and with any luck, your system should boot straight into a base install of Arch. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe for future videos.